in London. Sergio Ermotti is with me, the CEO of UBS. Great to see you, Sergio, this morning. The 8th rate hike in this cycle. Every banker must be waking up and sort of smiling. Higher rates, good news for the top line for UBS.
Yes, it's great news as is expected and is priced in the market. We do still expect another hike for December, another 3 hikes for 2019. So I think the Fed is basically executing their plans, and the economy is also sustaining this policy. So I do think that we will continue to see some hikes in the future.
I know you've been up early. What do you make of Trump's comments, sort of having a bit of a punch at Jay Powell?
Well, I think if I look, historically speaking, any intervention to try to influence central bankers, it has turned out to create a counterproductive outcome. I do think that in any case, if in doubt, under pressure, the Fed or the ECBs in the past and any central bank tilts to the contrary of the pressure. So I think that in that sense, monetary policy should be a matter of the central bank.
Do you think, I was listening to David Solomon from Goldman Sachs yesterday in New York, and he said, look, once the Fed get going, and they have got going, 25 pips a quarter, this is reminiscent for me of Greenspan, when they get going, they could do an awful lot more aggressive than we are currently pricing. Yes or no? Or
It could well be. I do agree also, because if you go back, at the beginning of last year, I think that it was clear to me that the central banks were starting to alert the markets to the idea that they may become less predictable, and therefore, one day or the other, central banks will need to become less predictable. In the last few years, we were used to them guiding the markets, and in the future, I think it may be that we will see a little bit of that.
When we caught up on the markets in June, you said, look, I'm not going to be surprised if I see a 10% correction, a 15% correction. Citadel Capital says, look, this is a run debt-fueled binge. How close are we to perhaps the investor turning on this market at the moment?
Well, you look at, of course, if you look at the U.S., you could argue that we are reaching all-time highs. If I look at Asia, I think I look at what happened in the second quarter. You look at what happened in the second quarter in Hong Kong and in China. Markets were down at a point in time 20%. So I do think that we see these asymmetries of movements between the U.S. and Asia, for example, which is quite indicative of the state of the world.
Yesterday we caught up with your chairman, Axel Weber, and he used the word caution. You've just come back from travelling around the world with clients. What word would you use to describe client activity?
I think it's clear to me that I've been there a few times, and I compare these situations as probably even worse than what I saw in 2015. There is an underlying already ongoing restructuring and questioning, but in a pattern where I think is positive for the future. Asia will continue to grow, but in a less predictable way. And this time the trade tensions, in addition to that, are putting more uncertainty. And you can feel it. You can feel it when you talk to clients.
Is it palpable when you sit down in a room?
I think yes, and somehow it's reflected in market valuation. You look at where the Chinese market and the Hong Kong market are pricing at very attractive levels.
Right. The other big piece of news for you is that Orajel is gone. What does that mean for you and for the investment bank?
Well, for me, of course, we regret. We are sorry to see him leaving. He was very, very crucial in helping us to execute our strategy and develop the strategy for the investment bank and execute the strategy. But on the other end, we are also glad and proud that one of our team got asked to take on such a big and important role. But, in essence, what it means for us, the investment bank will continue to operate with the same focus and strategy and discipline that we have been doing in the last 6-7 years.
What would you say to people? I'll put it to you this way. Orajel is gone. Zellner is gone. Are you all in and committed to this bank going forward? What do you want to say to the market today?
Well, I'm committed, and I'm focused to make sure that we continue to execute on our plans, and we have a very strong team that's in the executive board and in the rest of the organization. So I'm committed to lead the bank to the next frontier.
Okay, the next frontier comes. In terms of shareholders, have they backed your double-header of the IB? Some people are writing that the people you've appointed aren't the star names kind of thing that the market knows, and that might be a problem. What do you say to that criticism?
Well, that's the usual criticism that you see when you have new appointments and the market seems not to know people. I remember those kind of comments on myself, on Andrea, on anybody that got appointed the first time. We don't know, or people doubting. I think I'm pretty convinced that we have very solid and strong choices for our leadership in the investment bank and in general. The bank has a lot of talents, and we will make sure that they get the right exposure.
Okay, what about this? You've done a lot. You and I have done a lot of sit-downs over quarterlies, a lot of changes. You've done share buybacks, finally. People say to me, your bank, the stock price is moving sideways. What are you going to do to re-rate that bank? Or is it just a pure dividend play now?
No, we are not just a pure dividend play or share buyback. I think we have a growth story behind it, and it's quite clear that if you look at where the business we are in wealth management and in asset management, asset gathering in general, there are businesses that have secular trends supporting their growth. We expect wealth management to businesses to grow twice the GDP and in the next 5 to 10 years. So we are well positioned for growth in Asia, in the US, and we can really extract more value from our franchise.
I'm not going to be with you on the 25th of October, but this is the opportunity to try and give me a top line of what this announcement might look like later on in the autumn in terms of, is it going to focus on the growth proposition for the market?
Now, we will not come out with any new strategic goals. We will explain better how we achieve our plans. We're going to show and communicate any aspect that is critical to get investors to fully understand our equity story. And I'm going to do it with my team. We're going to have a full day session, and I'm convinced that this will bring conviction to the right place. But having said that, we have a good starting position. From where to go to the next level. Our stock is highly valued compared not only to our European peers, but also to our American peers. So we have a good starting position and a lot of upside potential.
You having a little go at Jamie Dimon there, Sergio? No? No. Okay. Sergio Ermotti, we got to wait for the next big piece of the growth structure from the bank. But there you go, markets and the departure of Orajel. Put very plainly and very simply, carry on, business as usual at UBS. Nobody is indispensable.